I want to ask you a question. This is actually an interesting thing. It might open a whole can of worms, and
That's
then we
okay.
might get lost. But
That's
it's all
okay.
right. So, for me, I really like this topic, but it's a little bit of a little bit controversial. But I don't really know why. But I'm gonna ask you the question anyways. It's gonna lead into the controversy part.
Okay.
What do you think those two words mean together? We're like raising men, like to raise a man. Like what does that actually mean? It's like it sounds cool, like it's very slogan esque, but it's
Yeah.
what do you think? Because I love that. Like I think it's great, and there's a really good message underneath all that, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Hopefully, it doesn't get us too derailed. But
It depends what your concept of what a man is.
right.
That's number one.
This is what I want to get into.
Yeah, it depends on what you would consider a man. Like, and I would consider like a lot of people that call themselves men babies.
Right.
You know, in a lot of times, and you know, so it's like, what does a man do? Like, and it's not to be like so testosterone driven that it's, you know, I'm the man of the house,
the
you
alpha.
do what I say.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's the opposite. It's like that dichotomy, right? I would be a good example of in my house. I feel like, okay, I'll use the one thing that I could say that I know more than my wife. Like one thing would be raising my son in hockey. True?
Yeah.
100%. If you want to argue that, well, come on. So there's a lot of times where my wife would be, well, just because you don't know everything about it, it's like, oh, I kind of do. Not everything, but I know most of it. Like I have a lot more. But at the same time, I have to listen and get her feedback on things. So if I'm what you could call a man, like the old school, I'm
alpha.
a man.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. What I say goes. Well, that's not a man. That's a very insecure person that can't have a conversation, right? It's being able to have an intelligent conversation and reason and let my wife have a say in something and then come up with a conclusion. And maybe it's a little bit of a negotiable. Some things are negotiable, and some things like I have to put my foot down and say, in this situation, you just have to trust me that you're wrong. Or you're right. That's a good point, because there's a lot of times she is right, because she looks at it from a different point of view, right? Yeah. If you always look through life through a straw, you only see one thing. So raising a man, but what I think that means is raise them to be responsible, raise them to be able to have some confidence, raise them to be able to not fear things, raise them so that they can raise kids. Like one of the things that I always say about one of the best things that I've done as a dad is, and with all the kids that we train, is they see. I'm not saying that I'm I'm not saying I'm the best, but they do see that, oh, an adult can still have fun. An adult can still be a kid. And an adult can still command a room. You've got some confidence. Oh, you can move. Oh, you eat healthy. Like those are the things that you live a productive life, and you don't make a bunch of excuses for everything, and you're not scared of everything, and you're not you have a little bit of jam.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely not being going out and stabbing a deer with your bare hands.
Well, there's some. The reason I like this is because people get lost in the terms, and I don't really know why. Like there's traditional things about men that are actually really good, right? Like you said, like you're somebody who can be responsible and be like a protector, be a provider, be a fill in the blank with all those things. Yeah. And it's not that you have to be all those, but it's like you're capable of being all those, and then you can figure out where to appropriately apply each of those qualities in the best way when you're navigating your life, whether it's in a relationship or with your kids or with your whoever. And I find that gets lost in like being an alpha, like being a guy that can just always runs the room or is the loudest or is the most aggressive or whatever. And that's not what that means. That's not what, to me, when you say like raising men, it's taking all those qualities that have really, really beneficial parts to them and developing them and applying them properly with confidence, not in a way where you're insecure, and doing it to the appropriate degree when it is appropriate to use those things, And I don't think like people, and especially in how like society is today, it's people look at those types of qualities like they're bad, and it's bad when it's bad, but it's good when it's good. Like if you're if you're in a relationship and you have a wife or whatever, it's like a biological drive. It's nice to feel like somebody is there to take care of you and protect you, and vice versa for the man to the woman, right? It's like, it's nice to have a wife that, cares about you and actually has your best interest at heart and is there in the ways that you're not there for her. And that's, to me, like, that's the whole point of the dynamic of your relationships, is that person should fill in the things that you don't have, and vice versa. And that's why, like, men and women bring different things to the table that is good for both people. And those things should be developed. So when you talk about raising men, it's like getting the kids when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and those things that they're already driven to do, like be strong, being a strong person, and define the word strong in the best way, and taking that and developing that to make them someone who's has those qualities, can apply them, and doesn't take advantage of the fact that they have them. Because you see that especially with athletes when they're young. It's like they're confident, they're athletic, they're normally the more dominant type of personalities when they're in a room. And being able to have that, but harness it and use it in the best way for yourself and for everybody around you, and not going too far where now it starts to be a problem. Where it's like, you're way too aggressive. Or why are you way overconfident when you shouldn't be? And those types of problems, that's kind of where you draw the line. And people, a lot of times when they talk about that, especially today, they jump right to the negative part of it, where it's like there's no benefit to any of those qualities ever. And it's like,
well, that's, come on, man.
Yeah, come on, right? So like, I think that's what we take in here, like in this gym. It's because I look at it more outside of the hockey lens, kind of what we were talking about with David yesterday on the podcast. Like outside of the hockey lens, it's just the life lens. As a man, that means certain things because you're a man. And you want to develop those things in the best way, and not let it go too far where now you're the overbearing, over-aggressive asshole type that fits perfectly into that alpha stereotype that is just not good for anybody, including you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense. You're talking about the guy that sits in his garage, drinks his beer, is gruff and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, a guy should be strong. Should be strong, but he's also, I'm not talking just only physically, mentally, physically, emotionally strong, but that means he's also got to be weak to the point where he can set back and humble himself and say, oh, I have to be soft in this situation. Like, for example, when you see your wife, maybe you don't have the capability to sit there, because I have to fight through this. Like, sometimes I go, come on, man, like, just stop.
For sure.
But we're different, right? So I have to sit down and say, okay, what's going on? I have to be weak enough or humble enough to go down and say, okay, what's going on? Or with my son or my kids, I have to say, okay, I was a hard ass here, not hard ass, whatever. But I got to show some humility or some softness to show them that I'm actually a human, that I can be approachable. Right. So like, there's a happy medium with that, right? And like you said, is it wrong? Like, should guys know how to fight? I think so. I think so.
Me too.
Like, I don't know if it's good if you don't know, if you've never gotten a fight before. I'm not saying go out and fight, but if you've never been to a boxing ring, or you don't know how it is what you can do to someone or what you can't do to someone. But if something happened to your family, like, can you actually maybe scare someone away? I think that's good. But then can you also be in a situation where you can diffuse it because you're smart enough to diffuse a situation as well? You don't have to fight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's like there's always that dichotomy, right?
Well, and it goes to that dichotomy of leadership book that Jocko talks about. Like, there's like dichotomy and everything. But to me, wrapping it all up, it's being a capable man, just being capable and capable in all situations, because being like compassionate or empathetic or having that capacity or being able to show some emotion, that's not weakness as a man. Like, those are all actually moments of strength. Like, you have enough, either enough like knowledge or wisdom or experience or whatever the word is, that you can apply that when you need to, and you're not just one way all the time, because that's actually a problem. And all those that is like at the deeper philosophical level of what we try to teach the kids when they're here as young boys, because that is what will make them capable later on when they're become adults and they're in their lives and they're treating women properly, and they're responsible in their jobs, and they can be a provider, and they can be someone who has a little bit of jam in their life, and you get respect and you get opportunity and you live a good life when you have those things.
Yeah.
And none of those things that's not a bad thing to do that. That's actually really a good goal. And that's what, as parents, when you put your kids in sports, maybe you've never articulated it that way, but that is kind of what you're trying to do. Like you want your kids to learn those lessons. And for young girls, it's the same thing on their own track, right? They have their own track of things that they're trying to develop in the same way, you know? And it's just it's just a really important thing, man. And because you see so many kids, I mean, people I went to school with that are around my age now, when I look at them and I see like how they're living their life, not that I'm same as you, like not that I have everything all figured out and I'm the most perfect person ever, but it's like, man, there's some gaps that are costing you.
Well,
you know?
I was just saying, as you're going there, I'm just thinking of three things off the top of my head. Number one, one time a couple times, but the first time this happened, I brought Charlie to a girl's house and we were picking her up, right, to wherever we were going. So we pulled in the driveway and he pulled out his phone. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm just letting her know I'm here." I go, "No, go get out of your car, get out of the car, go to the door." And he's like, "Dad." I said, no, you get out of the door. And I had a couple seconds, right? So you get out of the door because mom and dad are around. Their mom and dad is around. They're going to appreciate that you had the nuts to go and walk to the door and say, "I'm here and nice to meet you." And they get to put a face to the name. And then you walk out of there and they say, "What a nice kid. He's got some jam to him."
Mm-hmm.
It takes balls to walk up to a door and say, "Hi, Mr. whatever," or "Mrs. whatever." And they say, "Oh, hi." And it's uncomfortable. It's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
Another thing, just the other day, Charlie was with an NHL coach the other day, right? And something got screwed up in the scheduling. So Charlie was sorting it out. And he's 16. He's not 3, but he's not 25 either.
Right.
But the easy thing to do was he goes, "Okay, I got to get a hold of him." Well, I said, "Well, you should probably get a hold of him." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to get a hold of him right now." So he pulled out his phone. He started texting. I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm just texting him." I said, "Do you think that's the best way to do it? Or does it seem a little bit more mature or more reasonable to make a phone call?" He goes, "Yeah, you're right." So he made the phone call and it went really well. But those you stand out, man. You stand out. And there was one more that I was thinking about that. And it's just watching naturally because he's seen me do it or he's seen other people do it. Like with women holding a door open or seeing someone that needs just a little bit of help and kids, whatever, and hold the door, pick something up for someone because they know that they don't necessarily need it, but it's nice.
Yeah.
So it's like he's a brute,
right?
But he's a nice person, and that's what I want, right? Absolutely, so that's like that dichotomy. Yep. You're not just a meathead. That
the same kid that could go get in a fight is the same kid that will hold the door when you're when you're walking up to the restaurant or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's and even with women too, because this is where people get all like, it's like, "Oh, well, I don't expect, like, no man needs to do that for me or whatever." And it's like, it's not about that. It's that I will do it if you would like that. If you wouldn't, then I won't. That's fine. But it's just the fact that as the man, you're thinking that you want to do something for this other person that would make them feel like they're taken care of or that they matter in some way, and that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
I pissed off a lady it was in March.
Why?
She's carrying something, and I walked up, and I know her a little bit.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, I'll grab that for her." She goes, "No." I said, "Are you sure?" And she was like, not happy.
Really?
Sorry.
Well, and that's like the extreme. that's the extreme on the female. It's like you're offended that I'm just asking if you need help. Like you could just say no, and that's fine. You know. But
not happy.
I know. But anyways, it's all good things. It's all good things. It's not the stereotype of being the alpha is not what it means to be someone who's like a quality man. If we're going to talk about men specifically,
Yeah, and so like you say, if you get in the gym, where we bring this back to the hockey part is in the gym. That's what we're not just trying to teach them how to be hockey players. We teach them how to get to work in a room, to be a good teammate, to be respectful to the coaches, to know that before it actually happens.
Yep.
Right. We talked about this on a podcast last week or whatever. What do you do in a training camp for the first time? Do you talk to your coach? Like not necessarily, but if it's available, you have if it's not what's my word? If it's appropriate, then you have a conversation, you say hi, all that kind of stuff. But you learn that in the gym here that guys struggling to get a rep out, you go there and you help them out, or you do a little bit of encouraging, like good job, whatever, makes you a better dude. That's all. Absolutely. It's not a big deal, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a big deal.
So